welcome to Yamhill County Truth Seeker, Conversations in the Spirit of Truth. I've invited all of those who are running for McMinnville School Board to join me and discuss the same exact set of 4 questions, just to keep it fair and equal. And with me now is candidate for position 4 at large, Larry Vollmer. Thank you, Larry, for joining me today.
Sure, happy to be here.
I appreciate it very much. How long have you been on the McMinnville School Board, and what inspired you to get involved in the beginning?
I've actually served on the school board since 2006, so I'm probably now in my 17th year. Prior to that, I was on the district's budget committee for 5 years prior, which was probably the auspice for the entry onto the school board, as they had board members leave or move out of the district or retire, and they asked if I'd be willing to serve at least in the interim, and if I wished to stay on, I could continue to run after that. So they actually brought me on as I guess they appointed me to finish out until the next election, which was about a little over a year.
And what inspired you to get involved in the beginning?
Well, I guess, service-hearted in general. I think about when I was a kid, we were pretty poor, even by today's standards. There wasn't a lot of money for extras and things like that. And I think about more so my middle and high school activities while I was in public schools. And again, I'm a born and raised Oregonian, so I've lived somewhere in Oregon all my life. Some adult who didn't know me or my family served on a school board. They did what they could to ensure that I had the same opportunities as my classmates who may have had parents that were financially in a different place than we were. I got to play sports, I got to join clubs, I got to do all the same things for the most part that everybody else did, and there was somebody that made that happen. I don't know them and they don't know me, and that's okay. I was asked to volunteer on the budget committee initially, as I mentioned earlier, and sort of that giving back, the behind the curtain person, that's probably where I shine. I've talked about this a lot with folks. I'm not the guy that wants to be in the weekly paper, have my picture, my quotes up there. I don't want to be in the photo. I don't care what's for lunch. I don't need a t-shirt. I just want to get in and get the work done, because there's lots of kids. We have about 6,600 kids in this district that they're all in different places, and I don't know any of them or very few of them. And it's important that work get done by somebody who's there for the right reasons. Somebody did it for me. I have the skill set and the ability and the time to volunteer to do these things. I think it's important to give that back. Somebody did it for me, so I'm going to try to be there. And as long as I'm served, I've been here when kids are all the way go K through 12 through our district. So to serve families like that, I think is really it's something to do. And again, I avoid a lot of the spotlight stuff because it's not why I'm here, and I take all the politics as much as I can away from this particular service, although I've got to file and run like any other political candidate.
Anita, Humlie, it's your turn. I've just finished talking with Mr. Vollmer, and we have similar questions. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. So the first question I'll ask you, even just to reiterate, to get it clear, just a general, whatever you want to say about what inspired you to run for the McMinnville School Board.
Well, it's several things. When I heard that the 4 current board members weren't going to run, I knew that we needed to fill 4 spots with great candidates. I've always cared about our kids' education. I've worked in the school system and know what our education is like in the school system, but I think it really comes from my childhood. Growing up on a farm to an immigrant Russian family, having very little resources, my parents didn't speak English at all, They couldn't help us with school. So we were pretty much on our own, and there were no programs at that time. So we were just winging it. And there's 12 of us in our family, but we all got excited about reading. Those books in school inspired me. They took me to places I have never known. On a farm, as I said, there's very limited resources. And just the pictures in the books allowed my mind to just imagine what the stories were about. And so I got into reading very quickly. And even though I didn't understand a lot, it didn't matter because I allowed my mind to just conjure up the stories that I thought were in those books. And we quickly started reading a lot of higher level books. And that's what inspired me to be more academically sound. So when I started working in the school system, I saw kids struggling with the same things that I struggled with because there's a lot of non-English speakers in school and they don't know those basics of English education. And so I was able to help them to get excited about reading, to let their mind, their imagination flow so that way they could be the authors of the books, that they could get very creative, and that helped them to become better readers too. We were quickly reading Nancy Drew, Hardy Boys, and we even got into Louis L'Amour books, which are detective books, and those are like age 14 level, and we were reading them in 7th and 8th grade, so we just wanted to read everything we could get our hands on.
I don't think you're old enough to know those books.
They were great books.
They're classics. But
Yes, they
anyway,
are.
I interrupted your flow so that you were
Oh no.
really into the books and you helped them get into the books. What
And it
happened next?
definitely helped the students build their confidence. So I think when students have great confidence, when they can learn the basics of education, that gives them amazing confidence. And that allows them to try harder in all areas of school. And that allows them to step out and do other things and incorporate more friendships and really blossom as a person. Being shy is not a good place to be because you feel like you're in your own box and you're not able to do much. And so that's what I was always trying to help the students do, to just thrive internally so that way they could be a lot more academically sound.
Makes sense. So that's your passion is reading, and now as a potential school board member, just to tack on to still question one, you want to do something that furthers that in some
I
way?
Yeah, I want all students to be able to be college ready if that's what they want to do,
Mm,
or vocational
okay,
trade. So,
got it.
first of all, you instill their confidence, which helps them do better in school, and they can achieve a lot more, and they can go to college possibly. It just takes one person to get a child inspired. It takes all of us to help get them to, graduation, but it just takes one person to inspire a student. And so I want to be that person to inspire all students, no matter what their demographic is, no matter if they're English language speaker or if they're non-English language speaker, it doesn't matter. And that way they can just achieve a lot more in life because really our kids are our future and they're hopefully going to come back to our community and become leaders in our community. So that's what I
Exactly.
want. And I want that
Exactly.
for all students.
Okay, so that sounds like that would be your focus once in the position. Second question, active Oregon Senate Bill 409 is interesting. I don't know if it'll pass or not, but it requires that the school board, which would be you, to post course information on the district websites, probably for each building, so that parents don't have to necessarily come in and look at everybody's curriculum, but can look online and see what's being used officially and try to keep, potentially, I don't know if it would work or not, but potentially keep teachers from straying away potentially to personal or political agendas. What are your thoughts on that bill, or at least the thoughts within that bill, the intentions?
I tried to go online to learn about this bill because I had not heard about it, and there's not a lot of information out there.
True.
Although it does seem like it would be a great bill for transparency so parents can see what textbooks are being used, what materials they're using to set up all these lesson plans, and they would be a lot more educated about it. They would be able to step in and help in a classroom because we need a lot more parent volunteers. They would be able to converse with their children about what they're learning in school, and I think that would make it more cohesive. I know it would be a lot to set up. To try to get all of that online would be a big task. So I don't know how that would even work, but I think it would work very well for the parents, for the community. The knowledge of what it really is being taught in our schools, I think, is definitely something we should make more public so that way our whole community can know what's being taught.
Uh, I think the district itself, most of the people that are driving something like this haven't spent 10 seconds in a school and really have any clue or idea what happens inside of a school building. I can say that not only from experience, but because I witness it. We hear a lot of people that are very, very upset or frustrated about what their perceptions are that are happening in their kids' second grade class. And I find it frustrating that the accusations are made based on what a 7-year-old came home and mentioned what might have happened or a misunderstanding of what might have happened. And so the first thing the parents do is they come attack the school board because, we're actually endorsing that, which it's just silliness. So I don't, our curriculum is known. So we adopt curriculum. We're on a curriculum adoption schedule every so many years, and I think it's a 6 or 7 year period where we'll adopt a math one. We'll do language arts. We'll do an adoption for science. We'll do adoption for ELA, which is English as a second language, kind of how to teach non-native speakers English. And there's other adoptions that we'll do. But so those books are known. We don't hide that. They're available on our website. They're available in the buildings. Parents can come look at that anytime. If there's a parent that happens to have an objection to a particular piece of curriculum or a particular topic, it's in our policies. They can ask for an alternative assignment, and we grant that. It's not really a concern. What I really see this is there's this idea that there everything that happens in a classroom is politically motivated and some agenda. Now, honestly, we may be talking about topical things that parents may have an opinion about. I'll use an example. Let's talk about the Civil War. Okay, that was something that happened in this country. It was based around the time and had a lot to do with slaves. There were slaves that were owned by people in this country, and I'm not jumping on some political bandwagon, but that stuff actually happened. And so if there's this idea that says, I don't want my child to learn about that, I think it's really unfortunate. I think this idea that parents need to somehow have an input on every single thing that's taught to their child, they do. Their child lives with them. That's what parents do. Parents, they're the largest educators for children that we have, more so than the teachers. Okay, parents teach children their entire life. So this idea that somehow we're trying to put something up in front that says this is what we're teaching and how we're doing it to give the parents more say, I'm sure the parents are as excited about us giving them a list of things that we expect them to do for their child before they bring them to us, right? We don't have the right to give them expectations. We take the kids where they are and do the best we can with them. But yet the parents want rights to be able to come in and, custom tailor and custom fit an education plan and a program just for their child. How do you do that with 24 kids in a classroom and every child, according to their parents, needs something different? How do you do that effectively? You don't. I think it's a level of overreach. I know that many adults get frustrated with government. They say the government's reaching too far into their lives. I would dare say this type of a bill is very much the same way. It's that now parents need to have their ability to dictate to a teacher only what their child needs to know, regardless of what the other kids need to know. It's the same level of overreach, I think, in my opinion, and it's kind of an entitled perspective that I know what's best for my kids, and therefore you're going to do what I tell you. And it's just I think that those are the folks that don't participate in the process. They just live with the expectation that the government's there to serve them, and it's probably no more welcome in the classroom than us giving a list of things we expect children to have before they come to our building. That wouldn't be accepted by parents any more than this is going to be overly well received by the schools.
I must have misread the bill because I thought it was just being able to see what's being taught, not go and change it all the time. But my next question is, some have said that school choice, and I just heard today that Arizona and I already knew about Arkansas have recently made it where the money follows the child. And do you think that would improve education in general? Some say it would, some say it wouldn't.
It would destroy public education as we know it today. Absolutely.
Okay.
Because what that does is it allows people that actually have the ability to move and be mobile, which is typically middle and upper class folks who can be mobile, and they can go to a school of their choice. They can just pick up, move, sell their house, buy another one, move somewhere else. And the folks that aren't very mobile are stuck in whatever community that they're at. And what it does is it disaggregately support or benefit folks that are mobile at the cost of folks that aren't. So you're going to have two classes of public schools. They're the ones that haves and the have-nots. So I think that particular bill specifically, or any idea that choice would benefit families, I think what it does is it creates a divide. It lets everybody know that your kid's better than everybody else. You want to help the schools, you want to improve the schools, come spend some time in our building. Mm-hmm. See what it is we do. Most people that want to do this literally want to get away. They don't want their kid with those kids, whoever those kids are. So you're putting a label on somebody else and saying, I want my money and I want to go choose. I want to choose how it's done. I think any bill having to do with choice and where the money follows the kids will do exactly that. It'll destroy public education as we see it today, and it'll be one with the haves in one area and the have-nots in another. And that's something I can't support.
I think school choice should definitely be allowed for parents in case if they want to take their student to a private school or take them to another school because they are teaching certain sports or academics. I think they should be allowed to do that. Parents should have a choice on where they have their children go to school. So I definitely support that.
Okay. Final question. What do you think, and maybe you've already answered in the first question, what do you think are the top two issues or needs in McMinnville schools specifically? And I realized that it may be different for elementary versus middle school versus high school, but from what you've seen, from what you know, what issue is key? You mentioned reading. Is that it, or is there more?
I think the biggest thing our kids are facing today is the stresses in school, with all of the social concerns that are being brought up, with all the pandemic and all of those issues that they actually end up feeling all of that. And it really stresses them out, and they're not able to focus on education. So I think that is the primary reason right now that we need to focus on reducing the stress levels. Getting back to core academics, I think would help to reduce those stress levels, and really just focusing on the basic lessons, minimizing the stress in classes. And then for the middle school and high school, I've heard that there is a lot of isolation happening for students, a bit of segregation happening. And I think we should have a zero tolerance for bullying, that bullying is not allowed in school. And we need to protect all of our students from any type of isolation, any type of intimidation that they can feel. We need to make sure our schools are safe, that we're focusing on core values, that we're inspiring every student, that we're enhancing all of their education. So really, as a whole, we need to make sure that we have a safe, sound system in place. And so I think those are the biggest things right now. There's a lot of other stuff, but I would say those are the
sure.
biggest.
Well, and that would take a lot of creativity on the part of really everybody. And I'm sure that they're already working on it, but with a fresh face potentially and new research and ideas by you, should you be elected, then you could maybe make that rise to the top and have and influence that in some way.
With the isolation, all the stuff we've had to hurdle over, trip over, run into, work around, all that stuff having to do with all the isolation and the social distancing and the ability to have people in a building or not in a building, that kind of stuff. That level of isolation within the state of Oregon was horrible for our children. It was horrible for adults, but most adults have coping skills that can endure that more easily than, excuse me, a 10-year-old kid. So the needs of the mental health supports are probably the greatest, and that's pre-K through 12 and beyond, as well as mental health supports for our staff too that had to endure those same things. So I would say any kind of mental health support specific to making sure that they can address the issues that are making them anxious and withdrawn, or I think that's probably the number one overarching thing in any district in Oregon or anywhere that had severe isolation like we did in this state. Secondarily to that, I would just say that isolation has not helped us by any means. It has really changed the dynamics of what we do and what we expect and what we can expect. Maybe a second overarching issue there is, over and above mental health, is just trying to get the attendance back in the schools that have left. So if we had 100 kids in our district and we were trying to serve them all remotely, we haven't got 100 kids back. 2 years later, we've got, depending on where you are in the state, 75 to 95% of the kids back, but not all 100. And so there's a level of even where attendance is concerned, that not all the students have come back. And I know there's frustrations and there's a lot more homeschooling and those other kinds of things too, but I do think that the attendance would probably be the second issue, trying to get the attendance back so we can deliver the education and stuff to the students.
Very good. Well, thank you so much for joining me, and thank you for caring about kids' futures for so many years and paying it back and paying it forward. Again, thank you and take care.
You bet. Thanks.
Well, and I appreciate you taking the time to answer my questions, and I wish you the best.
Thank
Election
you so
is
much.
soon.
Yes, it is.
And thanks for caring about children's futures.
And you too.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of these United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And to my country I make my pledge to always love, protect, and defend her. And we the people across this land, one nation